if a donor, whether it be a corporation, a foundation, or an individual, if they're not willing to support your team, do not take their money. Do not take their money. My name's Tom Stader. I run an organization called the Library Project. It's an organization I started about 10 years ago. We're on our 10-year anniversary, so we did it. It was, I think when I say like we did it, I believe our greatest accomplishment is we stayed focused over the past 10 years. We are called the Library Project. We donate libraries. We continue to donate libraries, and that's all we do. We focus on children's literacy, and throughout the years we have been pushed into building schools, to working on, you know, any number of other projects, and we've said no to all that, and I think that is a huge reason why we have been around for 10 years and why we'll be around for many more years after this. It wasn't because of children's literacy, I'll say that. I became a believer in our mission years after the organization actually started. It was really because I saw that there was a basic need, and I saw that I was making a small impact. That's what kept me going. Now, I guess, how did we start an organization? That came after we donated 9 libraries. Someone on our board of directors, which was a very loose group of friends, met someone at a conference, I think in Florida, and that guy said, you know, I really like what this guy is doing in Vietnam, where I moved to.
Okay.
I want to give this guy $10,000 to start an organization, but I had to quit my job. I had to move on and actually do this full time. And honestly, I hated my job, so it was a really easy decision for me to make.
But $10,000 isn't a lot of money, so, you know.
It's a lot of money when you're broke. You know, I mean, it was, and I think today is $10,000 a lot of money. You know, I would say that it still is, but it's not. It was enough for us to take a risk, or me to take a risk. And I think, putting it into context, like $10,000 in America, you couldn't even. I doubt you could even start anything in America with $10,000. But in Asia, I was able to hire an employee. I was able to, you know, implement a couple of programs, a couple of libraries. So, you know, your dollar gets stretched out here a lot more than Phoenix, Arizona, or San Francisco. I couldn't even make rent for that in San Francisco. So, but I do remember the first time I got a donation from someone that I never met, and it was a guy named Alan. He read about us on some blog and said, "Hey, I want to give you $1,000," and I was standing in an airport, and I'm like, really? Like, I'm going to remember this. And then a couple years later, I actually got to meet him and let him know, like, you were the first donor that wasn't my mother or my friends. So
the little wins, right?
Yeah, man, it really was. I mean, that I think that was one of those turning points where I realized, hey, this could grow into something beyond myself, I guess. Failure kind of really wasn't an option. So when we ran out of money, or when we ran into any number of issues that we were facing, it wasn't an option to fail. I mean, I have 27 staff members that work for the organization right now in 3 different countries. We're registered in 6 different countries. We've got hundreds of donors on an annual basis. Failure kind of isn't an option, and it's something that that drives me as an entrepreneur to continue to grow the organization. Right now, we're 10 years in. We're doing financial forecasting for 2-3 years out. That we're planning 2 to 3 years out. That doesn't mean that what we like to call our go broke date is 3 years out. What it means is we're planning 3 years out. But when I started the organization, I was planning 30 days in advance. I was like, do I have enough money to pay my team of 1 or 2 or 3 people at the end of the month? That's what I was worried about. I wasn't really worried about if our programs were going to be implemented to a high quality, or our libraries were going to be of the highest quality. That was my team's job.
Yeah.
And that's why I hired the best people to do that. But what I was more focused on was, am I going to be able to make payroll? And that, I think, is true of most entrepreneurs in the world. I think most entrepreneurs don't focus on the product or service at a point. They focus on, how do I support my team so that they can do the best job. The first 9 years of the library project, I was what you might call the CEO of the organization. Last year, I hired a CEO. I hired what I like to call my boss, which is kind of fun. And it was the best decision I ever made for me personally. I kind of lost the passion to grow an organization. Thinking about all the finances and the HR and the compliance of 6 different countries. I did it and I was really happy about it, but I wanted to step back into the programs. And really the reason why I started this. And also get back into communication and, where my professional passion is. What gets me up in the morning is my team, 100%. There's programs are very secondary. The literacy that we provide is very secondary. For me, for them, it's literacy, it's programs, it's libraries, it's that our first school in Cambodia that we donated a library to, that school, 6 months after we donated the library, won the best reading competition in the region. That's what gets them up in the morning. What gets me up in the morning is giving them the space to build the best organization that they can. I think that once you start thinking about your teams being fundamentally different, whether they are Chinese, Vietnamese, American, Canadian, European, you're going to run into you're going to have a real issue. I think that fundamentally, when you come down to the basics, all teams need training. All teams want to make a pretty good salary. All of them want to feel as if they're a part of something larger than themselves. They want to know that the company is going somewhere, and that they're going to be learning along the way, and that they're going to be empowered and making an impact. I do believe that if you bring people on that believe in your mission, that just don't want a job, and you can do an interview, and if they come in and say, I want a comfortable job, just don't hire them. It's the wrong position for them. I mean, we look for people that are inspired by what we do, believe in the mission, want to make a difference, whether they're our accounting team or whether they're the project managers on the ground doing the literacy programs at the schools, to our fundraisers. And what I would say is, the one thing that we have not done is we've never hired people that have experience, I would say. We've hired for passion, and then we train. And that training can occur over a 6-month period, or it can happen over a 7-year period. But I personally believe it's hiring for passion, and age, gender, nationality, race. It's just it doesn't matter. It really comes down to the passion for whatever you're doing. Well, I mean, I think that the world is a really big place, and I think that why do people donate to the organizations they donate to? Why do they donate to the issues that they donate to? Well, it's because it's a very personal experience. I mean, I want to support rural literacy in Asia. I've got a friend that wants to support women's issues in North America. I've got friends that want to do HIV/AIDS in Africa. And so these are all needed, and they're all, relevant. And for me, I like China. I like Chinese people. I like Chinese food. I like the culture. And getting back to why I started here, honestly, I had $10,000 US, like I said before. I got a free office space, and that was a big reason for me. I was like, I only have $10,000. I want to start this organization. I have a free office here, and I have a potential employee that might want to come on, and I like China, and there's a need. So it was like, it just all lined up, and it's very serendipitous that it just kind of, it flowed. And it was the best decision we ever made. China has been very good to us. We'll be donating our 2000th library this month. I think that I don't think I could have achieved that if I would have set this organization up in Cambodia first. Now Cambodia is our third country, so it's just the way it kind of played out. If a donor, whether it be a corporation, a foundation, or an individual, if they're not willing to support your team, do not take their money. Do not take their money. It is hurting your organization. It is hurting the industry, and it will eventually bury your organization in debt. One of the hardest things that a lot of these entrepreneurs have is that they are having a very, very difficult time coming to the realization that starting a non-profit organization, a charitable organization, is a corporate entity. I think that produces a lot of anxiety, and they have a hard time communicating that to themselves and also to other people.
But what do you mean it's a corporate entity?
It is a corporate entity. It's physically a corporate. We're an incorporated entity based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We are an INC.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes us different than a bookstore down the road is that we have a tax ID that makes us a nonprofit status, and that defines what we can do with our profit and what we can't do with our profit, which meaning we can't pay it out in the dividends for our board of directors. You can only do that in a corporate entity. We have to reinvest it back into the organization. We can issue tax deductible receipts. We still have to pay tax, but it's just an ID. So, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's coming to grips that you need to you have to hire salespeople to fundraise for it. They're just not called salespeople, they're called fundraisers. It's not called revenue, it's called fundraising. But really it's revenue. You know what I mean? We have expenses, we've got income statements, we've got balance sheets. And it's a business you're starting. And I think that shock occurs about 6 months in. And it is a rude awakening. And it's a scary one, because you're like, oh my God, I've got 2 employees. How am I going to pay these people because I have no money? And then it comes down to building a quality product, a quality service, reflecting on your mission to make sure that whatever you're doing and you're creating is of quality, and staying on point, keeping a razor sharp product service that for your mission. It's just hard. Fundraising isn't the real challenge. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have that problem. You know, I mean, like when someone says like, "What is your like?" They ask me like, "What is your greatest challenge you have right now?" Like that's fundraising. But really, it's cash flow. That is what, whether it's a for-profit, whether it's a non-profit organization, it's managing your cash flow. That, I think, it gets challenging as you grow. The first 2 years, I mean, we literally had no money.
Yeah.
I mean, we did it hand to mouth. We would raise money. We'd raise $1,000, spend $1,000, raise $1,000, spend $1,000, raise $1,000, spend $1,000, and then we got a donation for $50,000 US, which was like, what? You know, like, woo! I mean, like, we got money in the bank. But then what happened was we had to hire 2 new people to be able to implement that program to a high level of quality, which changed how we asked for funds. Then we weren't just asking for $1,000. We were going in looking for $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. And the organization changed fundamentally at that point. And so, you know, as you scale and as your revenue grows and as your programs grow, because of your revenue growing, your everything grows exponentially. There's not a lot of times where I stand back and I say to myself, wow, this was a really easy day in the office. You know, or it is hard. But then again, there are moments that keep me going. Like very finite moments. Like 2 months ago, I went and saw the best library donation I have ever seen at the organization. We're at like 1,950 libraries or something. I found the one library that I was like, we did it. It just took 1,950 to get here. If it was easy, I wouldn't do it. I'm just not interested in easy, you know? I mean, I mean, if I wanted easy, I'd go get a job in America. I mean, you know, you get like a job description and you sit down and you do your job. I mean, and you're kind of protected by this like insulated box. And I'm not saying that it's easy in America, but for me, I mean, I was bored. I was sitting at a desk doing this box. I couldn't get out of that box. It was a job description, and it just was really uninteresting. And I didn't move to Asia to do that, and I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was really in America. I mean, it wasn't really even an option for me. But once I started this organization, I realized, wow, this is really interesting. It's really hard. It's rewarding. It's really hard. And it's really hard. And you know, I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think that I can just say like entrepreneurship is really hard. But it's also, for people who are looking for challenges and looking for something that is, I don't know. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that.
That's good.